Hello, everybody. So, please forgive me in my bathrobe and my t-shirt, but it's 2:33 in the morning, and I had to jump on and do a little book review. Okay. So, I'm a big fan of Phyllis Whitney, and this is actually the book that got me interested in Phyllis Whitney. So, I read this way back in the day when I was like freshman in high school, probably. And she writes a contemporary chiller romance, is what the Kirkus Reviews calls it. So I just have to talk about this book because I have started rereading it last night, and it's already 2:34 in the morning. So that means I've just read this all in one sitting, which you do sometimes. So I'll go ahead and read a brief, you know, the thing on the back. Hollis Sands has never gotten over her husband's death. Ricky had been a famous popular singer, and she wrote her best songs for him. Hollis cannot believe he took his own life. Perhaps it was something else. Murder. Then, at Windtop in Cold Spring Harbor, Hollis finds sanctuary. She begins to put the pieces in place, but strange and frightening things keep happening. Voices sing the Rainsong she wrote for Ricky. Guitars play from nowhere. Instead of a sanctuary, Windtop has become a trap. Hollis Sands is no coward. No matter what happens, she is determined to search out the truth. But does she know how close to death she is? Let me tell you. So there is going to be spoilers. Sorry, not sorry. But this book has been out. This was copyrighted in 1984. So I think if something happened like almost a decade before I was born, I'm allowed to spoil it. So, this starts out with Hollis. She lives in San Francisco, I think. She don't talk about it much in the end. Sorry, give me a second. Yep, San Francisco. And her dad is a somewhat doing okay musician. Her mom died when she was really young. And she is a musician. And so she likes this heartthrob named Ricky Sands. I think that's his name. Lord, it's too late. It's gotta be Ricky Sands. Because that's... we just gonna say it's Ricky Sands. Ricky. And he is this heartthrob musician, kind of like a... they call him a crooner. Hollis's dad does. And a crooner is... they sing very, croony songs. Okay, I'm not great. Alright? I'm not great at describing things. But just listen. So the first part describes how she meets him. How she plans on giving him this demo of her song. And she's written him before, but he's never taken interest. And so she decides to record a demo, and then she goes to take it to him when he's going to have a show at the campus at her local college. But then he has a terrible accident, and he's in the hospital. So Miss Thing decides that she's going to sneak in the hospital with the demo. And so she dresses all up in incognito, and then she goes in, and she's like, hey, you need me. You need me. Your ratings are dropping. You need me. And so she whips out her tape recorder and plugs it in. This is how long ago this takes place. And then he's like, yeah, you're awesome. I love you. Play me more. So eventually they get married, and she writes a lot of hit songs for him. They have a nice place in New York City. Everything's going, okay. She's lonely. He doesn't really want her around his music scene. He's got a little bit of a drug problem. that comes in and out, as some musicians do. So, one day, when he thinks his career is sunk, he's gone to rehab. And so his manager says, hey, hate to break it to you, he's got another woman who's a soap opera actress. Turns on the TV, here she is. Her name is her name is Coral Kane. I keep calling her Carol because Coral is a weird ass name. Okay. So he shows Hollis, and then he's like, yeah, she looks like she's 40, but she's really a lot younger. She's got alcohol problems, drug problems, and she's about to get fired from her soap opera job, and then she's about to let everybody know what Ricky's really about, with the drugs and the sleeping around. And so he's like, we're gonna go see her. And so Hollis is like, okay, you just told me my husband's cheating on me with her, and now you want us to just go see her? And he's like, yeah. So out of curiosity, Hollis goes. And this is a sad moment about show business, what have you. And then they leave. They meet with her. It's not pleasant. She's not going to back down. And then they leave. Next thing you know, she's dead. She's dead. And they say it's a suicide. But things aren't clicking. Okay, so she's dead for a while. Think about 6 years she's dead. And Ricky doesn't want to talk about it. But he spirals down. And then Ricky ends up dead. And they think it's suicide. So while Hollis is dealing with all this, and there's paparazzi, and he's known for this song called Sweet Rain. And it was kind of like a We Are the World kind of vibe, but about pollution. Really, before its time, I have to say. So fans are outside adoring. Picture like a Bruce Springsteen maybe, or like a James Taylor. The Hollis is a big fan of people like Carly Simon, so think around that demographic. So the manager says, hey, there's a guy here. And so she meets this guy, his name is Alan. And Alan's like, hey, this old lady is real rich, and she's sick, and she's got this big old house, and she wants you to go live there for a little while to escape. She meets the old lady, they get along, she agrees to, and so she goes. Then somebody starts stalking her at this house, okay? Sneaking into rooms, leaving notes, recording stuff on tapes, saying that, oh, you're gonna pay for, it's your fault, Ricky's dead. So she's freaked the hell out. She is like, who's haunting me? And nobody believes her. But that's when stuff starts to unfold. See, this Alan guy, he works at this plant research place where he loves plants and he wants to nurture. And so Hollis is like, maybe I was wrong about you. Maybe you aren't a big stuck-up jerk. Maybe we have things in common. So she starts to fall for him. Okay, he's got this younger brother named Tim that's missing. And once Hollis starts going through Ricky's stuff to try to figure out maybe what happened, what's going on, while she's being haunted, she sees a note from a Tim that had written, a big fan. So come to find out, Alan's little brother was the Tim that was Ricky's biggest fan, apparently. So Ricky is the one, a little boy, has been crawling in and out of this house on the roof, leaving notes, recording stuff. So he's like, Hollis, you did it. I met him one time and he said, women suck. And he was like, it must have been about you. He didn't say women suck, 'cause that's a abbreviation. He really said women will lead you off the path. But he was talking about Coral Kane, his mistress, alright? So Tim settles down. Everybody gets in agreement. And then the old lady is like, oh, excuse me. She probably coughed. She was in there for a heart attack. she comes home. Oh, I forgot to tell you, half of the house was mysteriously burnt down. Hollis thinks. Come to find out it was her daughter Mary. And then everybody tells Hollis that Mary died in the fire. And so Hollis is just like, okay, things are too much. Things are clicking too much. She finds out that Ricky had been invited to the house and played for everybody because Tim liked it. And Ricky just messed everybody up, caused a big drama. Nobody liked Ricky. Everybody hated Ricky except for Tim. And apparently, Mary. So, Mary ended up not dying in that fire. We find out that Mary, Miss Ames' daughter, was Carol Kane. And then Hollis finds out that Ricky had left her a note saying that Coral was murdered. Now, what I forgot to tell y'all is that there was coral roses found at both crime scenes. Ricky always got coral roses. A little too on the nose for me, but hey, I'm single. But why were they there when Ricky was found dead? So while we get to this point, there's been a cast of unusual, suspicious characters. There's Tim, the little brother of Alan. There's Alan. There's Miss Ames. There's a maid named Birdie and a gatekeeper named Luther. Now, Luther was injured in the fire, and he's a little crazy. I would say trauma messed him up big time, because he tried to stop Mary, and she threw his ass in the fire. So anyway, all of this is unfolding, and they're finding out the details. And then, boom, her manager is killed. Well, not her manager. Ricky's manager is killed because he comes and tells everybody the truth but doesn't tell Hollis because she might be in danger. There's also the neighbors down the road, which is Pete and Elizabeth, Liz. And they live down the road. They used to be family friends. Now, when you first meet Pete, he's a handyman at the house. But something familiar is about him, and he's creepy as hell, sneaking in, and for most of the book, you think that it's Pete. It's saying, is Pete, is Pete, is Pete. Come to find out, Pete is not Pete. Pete is Peter Barron. And there's one scene with Peter Barron at the beginning of the book. Peter Barron was Ricky's bass player. So what's going on? Because Ricky's bass player knows Mary and was in love with Mary. We find out Alan was in love with Mary. Ricky was fadoodling Mary. What's up with Mary? So, that's another reason we think it's Pete. His sister is being suspicious. Come to find out his sister was calling and threatening his manager. Or Ricky's manager, Hollis's friend, calling and threatening him that, hey, if Hollis stays, something bad's gonna happen to her. And she had faked an identity up in there. Everybody found out. And so, it all boils down to everybody knowing who everybody is. Miss Ames, the old lady, wanted to find out if Hollis had killed her daughter because she thought that there was something suspicious going on because Hollis had went and seen her the day she died. So she was like, okay, you killed the mistress, but that was my daughter, even though she tried to kill me and burn my house down and she was a bitch. So by the time we get to this end of the book, Alan and Hollis kind of really just digging each other. They've had a couple kisses, hugging, playing in the snow. But something just isn't sitting right. So, Pete, after, all this comes out, has been very quiet. Hasn't been talking as much. So, we all think it's Pete. It ain't Pete. Hollis goes up into the tower to talk to Pete. Alright? Ain't nobody in there. But the scrapbook of Mary where all the pictures of her as Coral Kane had been rubbed out. Like somebody took some rubbing alcohol on the pictures and rubbed her face out. And then Alan comes in. Alright, Alan comes in. I'm whispering because they're in this tiny room, and she opens the window and she's like, maybe I can run out. And she realizes that Alan did it. He said, I would have taken her back and brought her here and married her if she would have left the drugging and the drinking alone. But she wouldn't. And so I stalked her until she killed herself. And I sent her the roses. And this is the part where he was not fucking around. The note that he left in those roses that were found, it says, these aren't from him. These aren't from him. That's all he said, because he knew. Then he followed Ricky and convinced Ricky to kill himself. And then he said, Hollis, you're not like them. You can come live in here in this big old mansion with me. We'll have babies. We'll never have to worry about money. You can fund my research with these plants. And she's like, you love plants more than you like people. And he's like, okay, well, you've been acting kind of funny lately. Nobody would be surprised if you ended up on the ground outside a window. They know you're a grieving widow. So he's like, but I will give you a gamble. He says, I'll give you a gamble. He said, if you can make it to that other tower climbing out this window, that's your only option. Or I'm gonna push you out this window. So she gets out there and she's screaming. She's like, Pete, I know it's not you, I'm sorry. And nobody sees her until Tim comes out, because the manager, Norwal, I forgot his name, we'll call him Norwal. Norwal had told Mrs. Ames that he thought Alan was up to something, but she didn't tell nobody, because they didn't want Hollis to act funny and get killed. So she left her window open, and she heard her yelling. And so she sent Tim out. And Tim was like, don't jump. Lord Jesus, one of my idols just died, and now we're friends, and you're helping me write my music. You gonna kill yourself too? Why? And so he runs up to try to get in. His own brother knocks him the hell out. And then Pete's on the other side, and I guess Pete starts singing or something. This part is a little cheesy, but, it was the 80s. But he's singing or something, and she gets through. Alan slips and falls to his death. It's a happy ending. It's a happy ending. I would have liked a longer ending because, there's 311 pages. And most of it's just describing this big old burnt house. I love Phyllis Whitney, and I haven't been able to put this book down, so she knows how to do suspense. But it's so much about a house, and so much about sweet rain, Rainsong, rain, rain, rain. But her themes of what happens in show business, I thought were very compelling. It seemed accurate. I've never been in show business, but what I've heard, about the pressures and all that, and the twists are what keep you, because you will go down the list of every single person in this book besides her daddy and think that they're the ones that are messing with her and killed her husband. That's what's so good about this book. And so you only find out in the last 3 or 4 pages. So for 300 pages, you think it's going to be everybody, somebody different, even the maid, Birdie. She's just a grumpy old bitch. She didn't kill nobody. But all in all, I give this book, I'm going to have to give it an 8 out of 10. I'm going to have to give it an 8 out of 10. I love it, and it's what got me into Phyllis Whitney. But it's, it could have been sped up a little bit. It's a little bit of a bit of a long read, and this has become a bit of a long video. I don't know if I will post this or not, but I decided that I needed to share my feelings about Rainsong by Phyllis Whitney because it is a thrilling book, and I'm still off the high of reading it in one sitting. And I looked up on YouTube, and I was trying to find book reviews or anything, and there's a couple on here about Phyllis Whitney books, but not about Rainsong. So I felt it was my duty to bestow my opinions in case somebody else gets real excited about Phyllis Whitney and want to just hang out with somebody and talk about it. So yeah, maybe I'll do another one. I got a crap ton of her other books over here, so maybe I'll do another one. Now I'm going to bed because I'm tired. Bye.